All information given in this episode is for educational purposes and should not be tried prior to consulting a licensed physician and or certified state or accrediting bodies. We encourage all listeners to research, talk, and make all inquiries to all of the important professionals and governing bodies before acting on any information heard on the De La Fit podcast. Any action taken by any listener is done by and under their own omission and action, whether conscious to the results, positive or not.
To the De La Fit Podcasts, 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health, all in one podcast.
Salutations and proclamations. It is I, it is you, it is us, it is we. Together we make up the digital family that is the De La Fit Podcast. I'm your host, Philly's #1 son, aka the Body Alchemist, Sun Moon Bay, bringing you another podcast excursion. Welcome one, welcome all back to the 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health that is the De La Fit Podcast. Today's guest will be the comeback coach himself. That's right, Richard Kaufman. He will be discussing his new book with us, A Hero's Journey from Darkness to Light. Well, he will be discussing his life dealing with alcoholism and drug abuse and how he was able to battle and win his life back and how he is using the experience to help others do the same. Whenever Richard and I get together, it is so organic because one, that's just the type of person he is. So I hope you all Actually, I'm very confident you all are going to like this interview because it is so organic. It's not like many of our other episodes, which not to say that it's not organic and free flowing, but it's a little bit more, designed and pre-prepared, depending on the type of subject we're dealing with and the individual that comes to the show. With Richard, he is just, as he says himself, and it comes over so genuinely that, you know, it's like talking to an old friend. So I hope all of you out there enjoy this interview. I'm quite confident you will. And now, our interview with the comeback coach, Richard Kaufman. Hey, you, with the earbuds in their ear. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? When I was trying to get my podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other places people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcasts. I like to upload my episodes directly to the app and then promote. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it. Go to anchor.fm/start to join me in the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast.
You're now tuned in to the De La Fit Podcast.
Hey, what's going on, Richard? How you doing?
Me. I see all the big things you're doing, man. I'm proud of you.
I'm trying my hardest, man. Trying my hardest.
You're truly blessed, and you got a beautiful family, too.
Thank you. How's everything with your family?
Man, I'm so blessed. I don't even know what to do.
Hey, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, the family's doing good. You know, kids are getting big. They got to get ready to go back to school.
Yeah.
Got to spend all that money on shopping.
Yeah, I know about that. I definitely know about that. My nieces and nephews, they're not excited to go back.
Oh, no. Well, our kids don't go back until September. So we got a couple weeks left.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not bad.
So
what have you been up to?
Oh man. Well, first things first. Let's see. I've been doing more presentations, just with fitness and things like that. Working with the youth, bringing in more clients, and doing more work with the podcast, Richard.
Man, so you just blowing it up, huh?
I'm trying my hardest, man. I'm really pushing it. Pushing as hard as I can.
Well, as long as you stay in God's will, everything else is going to be great.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
I can understand that. I can definitely understand that. I read your book. I read it in total. I'm going to read it again. Man, I will say this. And I think I know. I posted on the comment section. It's not like reading. It's more like sitting in front of you and just listening to you tell stories. You know what I mean? And I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate
that. That was the whole point. I wanted it to be just like me and a friend just sitting there talking over coffee.
Man, you accomplished that. And I'm going to tell you this. There's some points where I look like, say what? I had to go back a couple of times and be like, wait a minute, let me make sure I read that correctly. You know what I mean? Because you got some interesting points in your life, bro. You definitely do.
Yeah, that's why, I just got off a podcast a minute ago, and he's like, all right, tell me your story. I'm like, listen, dude, I got a lot going on. There's three parts to my story, and then I told him everything. He's like, man, you've been through a lot.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, but, and my wife looked at me just like I'm like everybody else, because she's heard it 1,000 times.
Right.
But then when other people hear it, they're like, damn, you want to do all that?
Yeah, man, because look, the thing that got me, because you have some points in your story that I'm like, damn. I made like notes, because I was like, I want to ask about this, and I want to ask about this. But there's some points that I'm just like, wait, hold on, say what? Like when your friend, when you're in the military, I think it's like your friend from Alabama, when you and him got in an argument.
Oh, he beat my ass. He beat my ass for like 2 hours straight.
First of all, Richard, we all right. So we gonna start out the whole interview just like we doing that. Like, this is it. We not gonna go into no extra. You know what I mean? All right.
You know what it is, and I was just talking to somebody. I am who I am.
Right.
I'm not gonna put up airs. And I think that's why people relate with me, because they know that I'm the same guy you're gonna get, whether it's on my Facebook Live show, whether we're hanging out. I'm
right.
Gonna be the same guy. I'm never gonna change. I'm done changing, now this is who I am.
I understand.
And I do keep it real, because I did say that word. And, and the editor was like, are you sure you want to put this in the book? I was like, well, yeah, because it happened, and it was a life-changing, it changed my whole outlook on life. And I've never used that word again, because, it changed me. And, because things happen to change you. And sometimes it's not always the easy way to learn something.
Right.
And I just had to get my ass beat.
For 2 hours? For 2 hours, though, Richard? For 2 hours?
Now, just look at it coming from his perspective.
I can see it.
Deep South. From the Deep South. And you got this wise-ass New Jersey boy talking crap. And he uses that word, and you get a chance to beat his ass. Right. And he did. And he beat me till I was unconscious, and then I woke up and he beat me again. And
you were like 29 pounds at the time, I think you said?
Yeah, when I left for basic, I was like 129 pounds, like a size 28 waist. I was just like a twig. I was a wimp. When I went to basic training, they had to recycle me because I couldn't even do the push-ups.
All right. And he was 245 at the time, 6 foot.
He played football. He was going to play for the University of Alabama.
Okay, so wait. Let's go back. All right, because See, and you do this to me. This is the second time you've done this to me. Even when I read your book, I'm just like, say what? Like, it's all right. So let's start about the reason why you wanted to write the book. What was your whole purpose for writing the book?
Oh, so we're not live yet, are we?
Oh, we already recorded. Or did you want me to start? It's not live.
It's a while ago, man. I'm here for you, man. I'm just sitting here at my kitchen table drinking iced tea.
Okay. Well, I mean, we already started recording. I'm sorry. I should have made sure you understood that. So.
Okay. Well, no, it's all good. That's
all right.
Like I said, I'm the same person whether we're recording, whether we're not recording. We're just having a cup of coffee.
So let's start with that. I want to know what made you want to write the book.
Well, I was on a podcast. I think I told you last time. His name is Donnie Boyven. Mm-hmm. He has a podcast called The Success Champion. And I was telling him my story about how back ours interview was almost past a year ago. Wow. Yeah. That I was in the health and fitness industry, working with guys with the WWE, NFL, Major League Baseball. And then I started telling him my backstory. Mm-hmm. And I kept wanting to go tell him my front story. He's like, dude, no, we need to go back and talk about your past.
Right.
Because people need to hear that. People need to hear that story because there's a lot of health and fitness guys out there. But there's many guys that have been through the drug addiction, the alcoholism, the homelessness, the blindness, the post-traumatic stress syndrome, traumatic brain injuries. That's what people need to hear. That people need to hear that they're not alone. There's other people that have gone through crap and have made it. And right. That's why, and I went and talked to him offline. I'm like, all right, we did the podcast. Now what? He's like, I want you to do me a favor. I'm like, okay, because I trust him. And I still trust him. I was just talking to him before I came on here.
Okay.
He said, I want you ever see the movie 8 Mile? I was like, yeah. I said, I've seen it many times. Like, I want you to go back. I want you to watch the last 2 minutes. And I said, okay. So I went back and watched it again. And I called him up. I'm like, okay, now I've seen it 10 times. He's like, I want you to put everything you've ever done, all the grimy crap you've ever done, put it in a book. This way, when you put that book out, nobody can ever say anything bad about you again because you've already put it out there.
Right.
When a person comes back and says that you were a drug addict, you can now say, yeah, I was a drug addict, but now I'm not. I'm clean and I'm sober. I want you to put that out there so you can start living the rest of your life. And that's what I did. Is I wrote the book, and it was very cathartic. It was more cleansing. Another reason I wrote it is just I'm in my 50s now, and something happens to me. My grandkids, my rest of my family can always go back and read it and be like, all right, now I know why Daddy and why Grandpa is the way he is now.
Right.
See what he's been through. And it was also like the last chapters of the book like you've read, because most people don't even know what depression looks like.
Right.
What it really looks like. Everybody thinks that a person that's going to commit suicide is all depressed. Where like 80% of the time it's the total opposite. They're in a good mood. They're giving away stuff because they know the end is near. And that was one of the reasons I wrote the book, is so people can see what addiction really looks like from an addict's perspective, and what people can see what depression is really like, and see if they see it in their family members.
Right.
So that was one of the main reasons I wrote the book, to help other people, because I don't make any money on the book. I lost money on the book.
Right.
But it's about saving lives. It's about change. And I've had people reach out and say, you know what? I had the gun in my mouth until I seen your podcast, and I decided I'm not going to commit suicide today. I'm going to go get help. And that's what it's all about.
I remember the last time I talked to you, you were telling me, I think your goal was to help, you said 1 million people?
1 million lives.
A million lives, right. I always thought that was that was such an awesome and amazing goal, because most of the times we're like, even with myself, hey, my goal is to make this amount of money, my goal is to do this, my goal is to be successful here, but how many times do we actually say how many people we actually want to help?
Well, and the funny thing is, I've been thinking about that, and I'm like, it comes back to a story, I'm sure you've heard it, about the little boy in the ocean. Old man was walking on the ocean. There was a little boy throwing the little crabs back into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And he says to the young boy, "Why are you throwing those crabs back?" He's like, "There's millions of them here on this beach." And the little boy picked up a little crab and says, "You see this crab? I'm changing his life because I'm throwing it in the ocean. So I'm changing that one person's life." And that's what I decided I want to do. You know, even if I just change one person's life, it changes your whole family dynamic.
That's true.
Yeah, it's like throwing a pebble into a lake. You don't know where the ripples are going to go.
Oh, similar to like the butterfly effect.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. There's something I saw that I thought, and it's the first time I ever heard this, but I appreciate how you worded it in your book. And you said, not a drunk, but a dry drunk. That's the first time I've ever actually heard it described that way. For the listeners out there, explain that in a little bit more detail. You know, so they're going to read it, but explain a little bit more.
All right, now, I don't know if your show is censored or not.
Nope.
I don't want to offend anybody, but it was, you know, I'm going to be real, and I promise you, you know, I always will be. The difference between a drunk and a dry drunk is a drunk is an asshole that drinks.
Okay.
A drunk is an asshole that doesn't drink. And that's what I was, you know. And the difference between being a dry drunk, there's three different things. Being a drunk, which is, you know, drinking and just acting out. Being a dry drunk, which means you're not drinking, but you're still acting out. And being sober and living a sober life, that's when you start living the life that God has intended you to live. So those are the three things. And I was a dry drunk until 9/11, you know, and that, unfortunately, for a lot of people that, and I, you know, me and my wife, we talk about it a lot, that 9/11 has, you know, it has a hard connotation for a lot of people.
Right.
And for me, it's a hard connotation, but it's also the day that I became a broken man and the day that my life changed and I started living a sober life that day. And I can even tell you this exact moment. And it's amazing that how
Hey everyone, we hope that you're enjoying the interview thus far. We'd just like to take some quick time out to remind everybody to like, follow, share, and subscribe. With every like, follow, share, and subscription, it helps the De La Fit podcast to grow. And the more we grow, the more information we can bring to you, the listener. So please, take some time out, like, follow, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
God will use you or break you in certain times. And that's when my whole life actually literally changed in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Was that morning on 9/11 when the second plane hit the towers.
Right.
And I was in the military and I couldn't, and I grew up, I can look out my window now and see the New World Trade Centers.
Right.
And knowing that we knew people that were in there, and we could do nothing about it. And something just broke in me that day. And, you know, I wrote in the book, it's when my world collapsed. And out of the ashes, you know, God says, you know, that you know, you get beauty for ashes. And that's when I became, you know, the person that I am today. And that's when it all started that day.
Another thing that I really appreciated was the fact of, and I don't think many of us tend to think of it this way, but you were talking about first responders, and I think you said it was about, 35 a day?
The numbers are 35 first responders, including 22 veterans and 2 active duty soldiers, commit suicide every day, 365 days a year.
Wow.
They don't have anybody to talk to.
the thing that I like that you did, at least for me, and what you wrote in your book, is that I never really considered soldiers to be first responders, but they are. When I really thought about it, I was like, wow, I never really even thought about that. We think of police officers, we think of EMTs, fire, those individuals. They're the first to be there on the line when it's a war or when something needs to be defended or anything is really
not only that,
place.
I mean, just look at even if you look at past pictures of Hurricane Katrina.
Right.
All the military guys, they were all out there. They left their home. Like when I was in the National Guard of South Carolina, I would leave my home unattended to go save other people's homes in the same state, and I would leave my family to go save somebody else's.
It gives another perspective as to the sacrifice. Like you said, these are individuals that are putting their life on the line and doing things for us as citizens. Who do they talk to?
And a lot of times, that's why they say, a lot of guys that are police officers, as soon as they retire, within 2 years, they commit suicide. Because now they have nobody to talk to about it anymore. They don't have their partners. They don't have their battle buddies. And that's where I come in, where I want to be that guy where, even if I can't do anything for you, even if I could just listen, I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that stands in the gap and say, okay, if you need somebody to bend their ear, I'm here for you. And a lot of times, 90% of the time, people just need to know that there's somebody that cares and listens. And one thing I'm very grateful about the book is that for some reason, I forget what I was reading, and there was a quote by Steve Reeves, the original Superman.
Right.
And I called him and I actually talked to his wife. And I said, can I use your quote in my book? And she wanted to know what the book was all about. And I told her, she's like, oh, we would be so honored to have your opening quote.
Wow.
So his opening quote is actually the first page of the book. And I thought that was so amazing and he's talking about heroes. And, and I just thought, wow, that it sounds so much like the first responders and police officers and EMTs and nurses. That they're the real heroes.
They do a phenomenal job for us. I mean, they truly do. I mean, there's, with all the talk that's going on, the issues with, we'll say, law enforcement, there are really some good, solid police officers, men and women, who are doing their job and trying to do well for the community, as well as like the fire department and all of those wonderful people who are just out there, because they know the job needs to be done. It definitely needs to be done. You talk about second chances in your book. And one quote that you have in here, you say, lesson learned, my aunt and uncle gave me a second chance. I learned that everyone deserves a second chance. Let's talk about that. So,
okay, well, like I said, it was New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
I went to bartending school, graduated, went to work at my friend's bar, which he happened to be a police officer. And everything was going good. I was pouring drinks and everything. Started drinking, and eight hours later, I hear a knock on the door. It was him, and he has a couple of his police buddies behind me. He must have gave away about $2,000 worth of free drinks.
Wow.
I had like $5,000 in my pocket, and I robbed the place is what actually happened. And he told me, son, you're looking at about anywhere between 5 and 7 years in prison, not county, not juvie, prison. He said, you're 20 years old, you deserve a break. He said, you got to come up with the money in 24 hours. So I gave him what I had in my pocket, and I had to borrow the rest from my aunt and my uncle and my parents. And so I borrowed $2,000 and paid them back. And he gave me a second chance. He said, you got to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. And I don't know, I hit something like 360 days in a row sober, and I haven't had a drink since.
Right.
But if my aunt and uncle didn't step up and give me a second chance, or if he didn't give me a second chance, I would have been, in prison at age of 20, and who knows what would have happened. Especially because I was too pretty back then.
That's the one thing I remember reading. You said I was too pretty to go. I was like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, he was real about that. I'm too pretty, I can't go here.
they gave me a second chance. And it seems like, I've been given so many chances in life. And I believe everybody, deserves sometimes a second, third, fourth chance.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I truly believe that, no matter who it is, everybody, deserves a second chance.
Let me ask you about that really quickly, because I know you are there to help the individuals who are going through the trauma or trying to get themselves sober or just dealing with issues, period. What about the individuals who are, say, the family members of these individuals, and you're explaining to them maybe they need a second, third, fourth? Like, what do you say to them when they're like at their end? Like, this person continues, they're stealing, or they're doing this. What do you tell them? How do you help them as well?
Well, it all depends on the situation. It all depends on the person.
Okay.
And whatever the whether it's drugs or whether it's alcohol, whether it's stealing, whatever it is, I'll tell them my story, and then I'll also pull somebody else's story in. Like a young guy I was talking with, he had problems with drugs, and his parents said, he's never going to clean up. He keeps on doing the same thing and over and over again. We want to quit on him. And I told him, I said, have you ever seen the movie Iron Man? And they're like, of course you've seen Iron Man. He's like, did you know that actor has been arrested at least 8 to 12 times and did prison time for drugs?
Robert Downey.
And now he's clean sober. And you're like, oh, okay. You know what I mean?
Even the character Iron Man was himself an addict. That's right.
Yeah. So sometimes you just have to. I tell my story, but then sometimes I have to bring not famous, I would say, but somebody that's well known that changed their life and turned themselves around to realize, okay, it can happen.
Right.
Recovery is possible. And sometimes they'll just give them a different perspective on it. Like, oh, yeah, you're right. When you look back and see everything he went through, and now he's clean and sober, and he helps other addicts, they kind of get it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because some people don't think, and then also, if their parents are like hardline, and I'm like, well, like I had to talk to one guy, his parents, and I'm like, they were talking about, being an addict, and every time I was talking to him, he's picking up his phone. And I was like, all right, so you're an addict too. He's like, what? Since I've been here, you picked up your phone 48 times.
Mm-hmm. So
you're addicted to your phone. I want you to go put your phone away, put it away for a while. He's like, I can't do that. I was like, see, everybody's addicted to something.
Wow, right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It kind of just changed his mind. Like, and then he went to go pick up his phone. He thought about it. Like, oh, okay, I get it. I kind of get it now.
Right.
It can be something simple like that. Even making it funny.
Right, but opening that communication so they can see how it is and what's really going on.
And I went to a family dinner a couple of years ago, and we were talking about addictions. And I'm looking around the table, and I'm like, everybody's addicted to something. One person's addicted to money. The other person's addicted to relationships. Everybody has an addiction. Anybody. I don't care who it is. It could be either a healthy addiction or a bad addiction, but everybody has an addiction.
That's true. That's very true.
Because they said the average person picks up their phone almost 700 times a day.
Yeah. I believe
that's an addiction, right?
Yeah.
There you go. So if I'm an addict, you're an addict, we're all addicts. I'm just proud to say that I am. That's the only difference. I'm not afraid to say that I'm an addict.
Let's talk a little bit about the fact of gotten the award for being, I think is the Soldier of the Year award.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You're driving a military vehicle. You see another one's been disabled, and you're trying to help them. I think either fix it. Explain the situation.
I was trying to help it get it off the road so they wouldn't get hit by another car.
Okay.
And he was. I was backing him up, and normally I never wore my helmet. Right. I think maybe 2 or 3 times in my career I wore my helmet in the Humvee. But for some reason I put it on. I was backing him up. He hit the gas instead of him hitting the brakes. He was a new driver.
Okay.
And it backed over, ran over the whole right side of my shoulder, my right side of my body, and my head. It actually ran over my head. And that's when I had the ocular stroke and I went blind in my left eye.
Explain what an ocular stroke is, because that's something I've never heard of.
Yeah, a stroke can either happen in the brain, it can happen in the eye, it can happen anywhere in your head.
Okay.
So instead of having, usually if you have a stroke in your brain, it usually affects the whole left side of your body, and you can't reach, you can't touch things, you can't talk.
Right.
But it went into my eye for some reason, don't know why. And that's where I had a big blowout in my eye to where I lost total vision.
Wow.
And I've been blind since I just hit seven years. This month I hit 7 years blind.
This is the thing that gets me about this whole thing. After the vehicle runs you over, you literally say, I got off the ground, shook it off.
Shook it off. I did. Because back then, this is back 7 years ago. I was taking my testosterone. I was taking my protein, my shakes. I was jacked. So I was just like, all right, I got ran over. I actually called my wife. I'm like, honey, I just got ran over. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. I just took it off.
Look, and again, Richard, when I read this book, again, imagine, because I can hear your voice while I'm reading it, and I'm just, like I said, in my head, it's like I'm picturing you sitting right across from me, and when you said it, I'm like, wait a minute. Did he just say he shook it off? Like, got ran over by a car. Who would have thought that would have happened today? Really?
Yeah. And then I shook it off, and I cleaned myself off, and I got back in the vehicle, and we kept driving. But that's when my vision started deteriorating.
Right.
The whole time to drive down there. And when I called my wife, and she's like, how was the drive down? I'm like, I got ran over. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's all good. I just got ran over. It's good. I'm all right.
Wow. I can only imagine what she thought in her head at that moment.
And she knows me, so she's probably like, oh, what a dumbass. Because I wasn't acting like, oh, honey, I got ran over. It's a big emergency. You got to come get me. I was like, no, I shook it off, and I'm all right. I'm good. So
this is where your vision starts to deteriorate, and you said that you went to the doctor, and he wouldn't even touch you if he didn't have $5,000 cash up front.
Yeah, because I got back. I went through the whole. I finished my whole training. I didn't come back. I finished my whole training because I didn't want to quit on my guys.
Right.
I didn't want to leave my guys. And I got back here. I went to a civilian hospital, and I said, he looked at me, did everything. He's like, I can help you. He's like, but if you don't have 5,000 cash, it's like, I'm not even touching you. And that's the day, I lost my vision because we didn't have insurance yet. I was just, and I was like, well, I guess that's the way the cookie's going to crumble.
Wow. Again, there's several parts in your book where I'm just looking at like, wow. The one thing I would definitely say that I do admire about you is the fact of, one, everything that's taking place, I never hear you, except for maybe early on in your life, you never throw blame like, oh, it's because of this or that. You literally like, look, I'm the cause of this situation, and you own it.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'll tell everybody, and I even wrote, I was actually rereading my book myself, and I actually wrote this, said, I want to preface by saying anything that has ever happened, I'm not blaming on anybody else.
Right.
Because I was reading, I told you I'm an avid reader. Right. And I'm reading a book called Presence right now that a friend of mine gave me.
Okay.
And you're talking about how if everybody would just admit that anything that they do is their fault, a lot of shit would not go on. Like if you're just like, okay, it's my fault, I screwed up, whatever happened, I can't blame on anybody else. Life would be so much easier. Right. Because you spend so much time, putting blame on others instead of saying, what part did I take in? What part would, like I was telling somebody that if you've been through 7 different girlfriends, guess what? It's not their problem, you're the problem. And once you figure out that you're the problem, then you can straighten things out. You know, so I have a lot of people say, I've been through this job. I had problems on the job. But it's like the 7th job this month. You know, maybe it's not the job.
Right. That's true. That's true.
Like Cookie Monster holding the cookie saying, maybe it's not the cookie's fault.
I mean, that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. I mean, to actually admit that they have a bigger part in their own unhappiness. I admire you because we all know the individual that won't take responsibility, and then there's the other individual that takes responsibility, but they, in a sense, it's like they're taking it, and then when they explain or they're trying to quote unquote help others, it's kind of like they still can't quite hear. You get what I'm saying? Like that communication. You, on the other hand, you're just like, no, this was my life. This is what happened. I did it. I accepted it. Hey, you know, and you can listen, you know, and I admire that about you.
It is, you know, it is what it is, you know. It's my life, you know, and it's, but I don't look at it, I look at it as a blessing.
Right.
Everything that's happened to me. Because now I'm able to do what I'm doing now. You know, if I lived this hunky-dory life, I wouldn't have a story to tell.
So, Richard, let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now. Tell us about some of the things you're doing. I mean, one, you wrote this great book. You know what I mean? So tell us some more about what you're doing.
Right now, my focus is, I've been on probably at least 60 to 80 podcasts now.
Right.
I have my own Facebook Live show every Monday night. It's called the Monday Night Comeback. And I actually have other people come on that have went through some crap. And I interview them. And I've been on a couple speaking things. I've actually been on 2. One of them it's called the Resilience Summit. And it was an online summit for just resiliency.
Okay.
I was on there. And my goal is to be able to get out and talk to more people, get on more stages. You know, I've been in contact with some of my mentors are like Ed Milet, Gary Vaynerchuk,
right?
Les Brown. I've been in contact with them. Hopefully we're going to be doing something in the future. And I'm just going in God's will at this point, you know, because sometimes it's like I get in my own way. And
I can understand that.
You know, and I want it all to happen at once.
Right.
And, you know, and I think God's like, oh, whoa, slow down. You know, take it one step at a time. You know, because it's only been a year since I really started doing the whole speaking, and so it's like now I'm just taking my time, and I'm trying to become kind of like you do. You know, I'm becoming a better interviewer.
Right.
And my wife's like, because my wife actually listened to me last night interviewing to this gentleman, and she's like, wow, you didn't really say much. I was like, that's the whole point.
Right.
I want to talk and have somebody else tell their story. You know, because when I first started interviewing people, I would just interrupt and I would talk over them.
Right.
And I would listen back, and I was like, all right, well. And then I would listen to like people interview like Walter Cronkite, you know, these old guys.
Right.
Were amazing interviewers. And I was like, wow, okay. Now I see I have things to work on. And then I started listening to, you know, when I was talking, you certain words you use all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah,
you know,
I understand.
Yeah, I'm working on that.
Same here.
Little things, you know.
Same here.
Trying, you know, being a better father, you know, trying to be a better husband. You know, because a lot of people, they try to help the whole world, and then their family's in shambles. But I want to do it, you know, the other way. I want to do it from the family outside instead of the outside to the family. You know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Rich.
So life is good, you know. I mean, I'm probably not going to write a second book. Probably not.
Really?
I shall. But then I talk to people, and I'm like, they read their book. One friend of mine is like, you read the book? He's like, dude, are you retarded? I'm like, why? He's like, because you write like crap. I was like, yeah, but I wrote it to sound like it was coming from my voice. You know, I wanted it to sound like it was me, and I didn't want somebody to edit it and write it and make it sound perfect.
You got to write another book. I'm going to be totally opposite of those. You have to write another book. The reason, yes, there are some things that might be not, quote unquote up to style or whatever, but you have a gift, Richard. The gift is the fact that I can hear you clearly. You have to write it. It's my opinion. You have a talent there, and you should pursue it.
Maybe I will. Maybe I'll talk about people that I interview, things that I'm going through now. Because in every stage of your life, I was talking to somebody on my live last night. Your mentors change.
True.
And it can go from month to month.
That's true.
Once you start moving up, not financially, but once you start, like, even if you start moving up spiritually, you'll find another spiritual mentor. And sometimes, it's amazing how your mentors can change. And, just the year that we've been talking, I can look back and say, man, a lot of things have changed over the last year, but a lot have stayed the same.
That's right. I can definitely understand that. Totally. Where can individuals get your book? They need to know where to get the book.
Now, do you have a link, or I'll shoot you a link?
I have the link, but I want you to tell them exactly where they can go, because I know I have certain groups, what we call self-help groups, that listen to the podcast, and I want them to be able to go and get your book.
Okay, it's on Amazon Kindle.
Okay.
It's called The Hero's Journey from Darkness to Light, and that's my story. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, this is the greatest thing that Gary Vee ever taught me. I said, Gary, I want to take something home with me. I want to be able to do something today. He's like, all right, you need to make yourself a hashtag. I was like, huh? He's like, make yourself a hashtag.
Right.
And whenever you do, hashtag it and put the hashtag in. So when people, whenever they want to find you, all they got to do is hashtag you. So my hashtag, if anybody wants to know anything about me, hashtag the comeback coach, or hashtag Richard Kaufman. And that will come up Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, podcast, Facebook Live. Anything I've ever done is all goes to those two hashtags. And I was like, wow, that's so cool. And it's free.
Right.
And that's what I did. So now if somebody wants to know anything about me, they just hashtag the comeback coach or Richard Kaufman, and all my social media comes up. Richard,
you definitely taught me a lot. Like, I pay attention to the things. It might not seem like it because there's a lot going on, but I pay attention to the things that you're doing. I respect everything about you. We still haven't had the chance to hang out, but that's because I know you're doing things, I'm doing things. I'm gonna pop up at your GNC one day. Just out
there you go.
I'm gonna pop up there and just surprise you one day. But
there you go.
Definitely listening to you, going back and listening to the interviews, and just looking at what you're doing with your podcasts and your shows and your platforms.
I tell everybody, it's not a big show. It only gets about 1,000 views a week.
That's a lot, man.
Well, I was actually talking to the CEO of a company called Grunt Style.
I'm familiar with them.
And he might be coming on my show coming in November.
Okay.
So, and he, now I'm starting to reach out to, higher echelon people that, that are more well known.
Right.
Now it's just become like, all right, for a while it was just fun, something to do.
Right.
But now it's like, I can start reaching a lot of people.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, now I actually have people saying, Gary, when can I come on? And I'm like, man, it's only a weekly show,
Right.
Look, I have a backlog of people. So I might eventually have to start doing a separate show and just putting it out on, I guess, a podcast somehow. I'm still learning all that. Like I said, I'm a low-tech redneck, so I'm still trying to learn all this stuff.
Man, listen, I can see it's going to get way bigger. Because of what
you know what I do is I just pray before everything I do, and I said, Lord, it's in your hands. I'll put forth the effort, but you're in charge of the results.
Right.
And once I start thinking like that, it's like, okay, then as long as I'm in His will, it's going to be the way it's supposed to be.
Richard, you're always welcome on my show, man.
I appreciate you.
You know you're always welcome on our show. I like talking with you. All right. You're one of the few people I can talk to about now podcasting and, you know, different things. And you're a WWE man. You know, we talk about wrestling when we can. You know what I mean? So, you know, you're always welcome. You're always welcome.
I appreciate you so much, brother.
I hope everybody enjoyed the interview with the comeback coach, Richard Kaufman, and him discussing his new book, A Hero's Journey from Darkness to Light, something I thoroughly enjoyed reading, something that gripped my attention. It's not a long read. I think that's the thing about the book that makes it so different, so unique, yet so amazing. It's not a very long book, but it's a substantial book. And there are some moments, some little things in the book grammatically and some little nuances that most individuals might look at and say, you know what? Wow, this is different. And it's not outstanding. I want everybody to understand this. Richard himself says he's not per se a writer, but he wanted his voice to be heard. I happen to think that Richard is a writer. And because he has such a defining and self-defining identification of himself, because he knows his voice, it transcends. So I would urge anybody to take the time to get this book, A Hero's Journey from Darkness to Light, available on Amazon Kindle, to get it, read it, and listen as Richard breaks down his story of coming from alcoholism, drug abuse, and his childhood into adulthood, and how he was able to transcend where he came from to become the comeback coach and to help others. I hope everybody enjoyed this interview. I enjoyed doing the interview and speaking with Richard, as I always do. To me, I'm like, this is what I do this for. You know, and I sincerely hope that anybody out there listening is able to take in the message, which is the fact of there is hope on the other side. As always, please love yourself the right way. If you love yourself properly with that 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health mindset, then I know you will love others the correct way. And that's the only way we can continue the journey of each one teach one and making the village flourish. As always, thank you. Be happy, be healthy, love yourself, and love others. Peace.
You've been listening to the Delafit podcast. Ta-ta for now.